What's going on, Orange Nation? This is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Happy Wednesday to you. Hope everyone's having a good week so far. We're going to do some Syracuse football and recruiting stuff today. Hope that's okay with you guys and gals. Okay, so we all know, or at least if you follow Syracuse football, listen to my show, or just following, you know that there was this viral kind of moment on Saturday after Syracuse football stormed back and beat UConn at the Dome in the home opener. Um, Fran Brown said before the game um, that if they didn't play up to his standard, that they were going to run sprints afterwards, even if they won. And they won, and he had them do it. And there's certainly, I think, arguments could be made on both sides as to whether that was a good thing that what he did, or if like he was trying to get his message across, but did he go about it the wrong way? I don't know. I have certain feelings, but there was definitely a lot of um, sentiments about it. And some of the guys that chimed in, you probably know some of these names: John Gruden, a former NFL coach, Pat McAfee. Most people know who Pat McAfee is, love him or hate him. And then some other folks as well. And it was interesting because like McAfee said something here, and I just want to make sure I got the quote right. He said, I like what Fran Brown said. You either coach it or allow it. He said, it's my job to make these guys the best men they can possibly be. His promo was actually, these guys are going to be fathers and husbands, and I can't let them slide. It was a really good speech afterwards. I was like, I respect it. But then there was another quote from McAfee. Then I watched the video again, the video of them running the sprints, and I was like, I don't think that point is going to get across in that moment. So um, I don't really care about McAfee one way or the other. I know he's obviously tremendously popular, love him or hate him, and he's got huge, social media following, and his show's very popular, and I'm sure he makes a ton of loot. And um, you know, I don't really like have an opinion about him one way or the other. And I get what he was saying. And then John Gruden said, I don't think one of his quotes was, "I don't think this is a real good thing for Syracuse football. If I was one of those players, I'd be a little embarrassed today." I mean, okay. And then on McAfee's show, this guy by the name of Darius Butler, who played in the NFL and actually was a DB at UConn, his one of his quotes was, he said, "That's bull blank," and you can assume what that is. Look at me, I'm a tough coach. I'm going to run my team after the game in their pads. We should have won that game. That's sour grapes to me, but had it all game long, tricked it off. But yeah, this is cute. Go ahead. You lost some practice time. I like Fran Brown too, but this is bleep. So that was, certainly more, little bit more passion. And, again, he went to UConn. So I get all that. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't think Fran Brown was trying to, like, embarrass his team, or maybe he was, but like with good intentions. He said, if y'all don't play up to the standard, regardless of the final score of the game, you're gonna run sprints. And so and I'm going to talk about in the next segment some recruits, some commit high school commits, had their own thoughts about it. I don't know. What do y'all think? I mean, it didn't like bother me that much, but I mean, I could get where it might have rubbed some people the wrong way. And I also know that Fran Brown is a genuine dude and calls it like he sees it. So like, I respect the guy. I respect his, and I think he's got integrity. So I don't know. I didn't have an issue with it. Obviously, other people have their takes. Let me know what you think. But that was definitely interesting comments from Darius Butler. I mean, would he have said that if it was his team that won? Like, what happened if Jim Moore, the coach of UConn, said before the game, earlier in the week, well, even if we beat Syracuse, if we play like crap, I'm going to make my team do sprints. Now, I guess they probably wouldn't be as likely to do it because they're on the road, and that's just not something he'd probably do. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. Butler, was obviously heated about it, but he also, I get it. He went to UConn, and I don't think it was a terrible look for Fran Brown. Is he going to do that after every game, even if they keep winning games? I don't know. If he was just trying to, like, get his point across and motivate and all that. Could it have been done in private in another setting, not right after the game? Sure, but if he thinks it's more effective this way, I mean, I don't know if players were embarrassed or not, but if it's a motivation tool, so be it. I don't have a big problem with it. All right, so to that end, there was a cool story earlier this week, but I didn't get to talk about it yesterday because we were doing basketball stuff. But I just wanted to throw a couple things out there, and it was on 24/7 Sports. Mike McAllister talked to, and if you don't follow Mike, you should, because he's really plugged in about recruiting, and he's a great reporter, good dude. But he had a story where he talked to a bunch of different 2026 verbal commits. Syracuse has, a large 2026 class. I think it's at 28 right now, 28 verbal commits, and it's like around top 25 in the country. But some of those commits, reacted and talked about, Syracuse didn't play that good of a game, which they didn't, but they were impressed with the team's fight, which, I don't know if I was impressed with it, but I respect, like, I thought they had fight, and they came back obviously and won, and so that's cool. But like Tyrell Grant, who's like a 3-star quarterback slash athlete, multi-positional athlete, he said, here was his quote. He said, "It was electric. Good to see the team fight to the end. I was at the Tennessee game down in Atlanta the previous weekend. The team plays hard and fast. We have to get off the field on third down, minimize turnovers, reduce the big plays that we give up. But I love the fight and grit." And I agree with Tyrell there. But then check this out. Then he says, "The thing I love the most, though, is the conditioning at the end of the game. The standard is the standard. When we don't play up to the standard, then let's get after it. Dart." I like that. I thought that was cool. And then I'm not going to read through all these, but I just want to highlight a few because I thought they were interesting. Jimmy Gregg, who is a punter, he's actually, according to 24/7 Sports' individual rankings, not the composite, but individual, he's the number 1 punter in the 2026 class. So that's kind of cool. And he said, "I thought the running after the game was absolutely a reasonable response to the way we played. With that being said, I think that the little mistakes we made just built up, and I don't see this as representative of how the season will shake out. Still a lot of guys who need to get used to a lot of things, talented roster, sky is the limit, blah, 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 blah. Certainly more to come in the coming weeks." So, again, multiple other guys echoed those two, Jimmy and Tyrell, their sentiments about the fight and the grit of the Syracuse roster. And that was like the main point of this segment. I thought those quotes were interesting, and it did, like, I was obviously discouraged that Syracuse almost lost that game at home, albeit to a quality UConn team. And let's see where UConn ends up. If they win 8-9 games again and go to win a bowl game again, it looks like a decent win then. But it's not even that they had to come back. Like, if they had to come back, but they were still playing well, and then they just came back and won, that's great. But they just didn't look great, which is usually the case when you're losing a game. But this team does seem to have fight, and as we've talked about on Syracuse Central, it's an overhauled roster, just like a lot of other college programs. But a new quarterback who joined the team in the spring and wasn't a full-time starter last year. Big difference between him and Kyle McCord in that regard. I'm worried about, is Yassine Willis, is he going to get enough touches? Is he, we'll see what's going to be like the dynamic between, not the dynamic, but like the reps between him and Will Nixon. Is Will Nixon going to end up getting more reps than him at some point? I didn't think they used Yassine enough last game. Is there something else going on that we don't know about? But, again, the offensive line is overhauled. I think the wide receivers are going to be good. There's talent on defense, but there's question marks too. So my point is that they're 1-1. They beat the team they should have beat, and it could end up being a solid win. And they lost to a top 20 team on the road. So, I'm not like panicking. I also don't, unless things improve, they're not going to win 9 regular season games, especially with this schedule. But time will tell. We've got time. We've got time. And, but I did like their fight. They didn't give up. I did like their fight. So we'll move on to Calvin Russell. And, most of my articles, Well, I do write articles about Calvin Russell, but just not for Syracuse Central. But most of my segments on him so far have dealt with his rankings or being a flip target or whatever else. But this one, I saw it on Syracuse.com. I didn't see it anywhere else. I was trying to see if there was other articles about it, but I trust Syracuse.com. Javon Edmonds, I think, had it. Their beat writer. He's a good writer, great writer. But he had a story about that Russell had on his Instagram story, which obviously doesn't stay forever, but that it showed him in a walking boot on his right foot, and I haven't seen anything else about what kind of injury it is or how bad it is. But I just wanted to pass that along because we don't want Calvin to be injured. Now, granted, he's not coming to Syracuse. Well, there have been reports that assumably he signs during the early signing period. There have been some reports talking about him enrolling in January, an early enrollment versus obviously when other folks come the more traditional time after the summer. But and that happens all the time in football. So he could be there in January, assuming he doesn't flip, and I don't think he's going to. But we'll monitor this. I certainly don't want Calvin to be injured. That's no fun. And I think Miami Northwestern, they won their most recent game, but I feel like they had lost at least one game earlier in the year. They were in the preseason like top 25 rankings, and they might have fallen out of some of them. I mean, it's still early. They've only played a couple games, and they did have a head coaching change and all that stuff too. So I'll keep tabs on Calvin. Hopefully he's okay, and we want him to be back in good shape and have a great senior year. So we'll wrap up here with talking about Fran. I'm just gonna grab some water here, folks. So I thought there was something interesting. Fran Brown, I don't know if it was at his Monday press conference or it was another interview. I saw it on in a couple of different places where he was quoted. He was asked about it was basically were you ever thinking when things weren't looking so good on Saturday in the ultimate win against UConn, eventual win against UConn, did you ever think about making a change at quarterback? And I saw a lot of people on social media. I wasn't like laser focused on the game because I was with my son, but I watched it. I just wasn't like tweeting nonstop and all that. But I mean, I did see stuff on social media and in chat rooms saying, "Oh, is it time for Ricky Collins? Is it time for?" And I was like, "All right, dudes, it's been like not even 2 full games." But I get it, and I think part of the reason for people asking that or wondering about that is because the two of them were so neck and neck. Like, no disrespect to the quarterbacks last year, but like Kyle McCord and then the backups, like it's big disparity. This year, these guys were like neck and neck. So like, and Fran has said in, God willing, if something happened to Steve, we'd feel very confident with Ricky, and which is a testament to Ricky's skills. But he was asked if he considered putting Ricky in, and let me get the quote right. And he said, "I'm locked in on Steve. There's nothing happening to do that in terms of a quarterback change. I don't like to do that. This is Steve's moment. This is Steve's team." And then when he was asked if he considered pulling Collins in the game, he basically objected, like, is that even a question? He's like, it's not really fair to Steve or to Ricky for you to ask me that. That's messed up to ask me that. Like, and I love Fran, but I don't know. Is it messed up? I mean, first of all, as someone, I've been in media business for since I graduated from Syracuse in 2000. Like, it's not messed up. That's fair game. I don't know. I mean, again, I love Fran, so like whatever. Like but I was just kind of like, all right, well, I don't know. It's a legit question. But his response about this is Steve's team and he's not like gonna have a platoon system, or if Steve struggles, he's not planning to put Ricky in. And I respect that too. And Ricky said all the right things about Steve, it being Steve's team, winning the quarterback competition. But they got Colgate on Friday, and then what, Clemson after that, and then they got they got tough games coming up. If they start losing a ton, he's not going to think about making a change. I mean, especially if, I mean, again, no, I'm not like taking a shot here at Steve, but if they're losing games and he's just not playing well, I mean, it could be other stuff too. The defense could stink, or that just, other factors. But if Steve is really struggling, you don't think he's going to get asked that? Anyway, I don't want to like harp on it for too long. And I respect Coach Brown for like sticking with he made his decision, he's sticking with it. And look, Steve ended up coming back, and he had what, over 400 yards passing. I don't remember the numbers. I know I read them off the other day. Over 400 yards passing, and he did have the pick, and he did have the fumble, but he had 2 touchdown throws. So, and they won, and they won the game, and they're 1-1 overall. Assumably they'll beat Colgate, and then let's see what happens against Clemson. And Clemson's not super impressive right now, but yeah, I mean, on the one hand, like I could see where that might irritate Fran, or like he's sticking up for his guys, but like on the other hand, that's what reporters are supposed to do. I thought that question was totally fine, but I also believe Fran Brown that this is Steve's team, and unless there's some weird stuff that happens, this is going to be Steve's team, and he's going to be playing. So I'll leave it at that. I think Ricky Collins has got a bright future as well, whether it's in Syracuse or somewhere else. But they have 2 good quarterbacks, and we'll just see. We'll take it one week at a time. Ready for the Raiders on Friday night. Friday Night Lights, baby. All right, this is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. As always, drop me comments about what you like and you don't like. I appreciate you tuning in. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Take care, friends.